Hello and welcome to the No Huddle Podcast. This is the Week 15 reaction show. And before we get started, we have a jam-packed show today. I have 10 pages of notes, so we're going to be in for a fun one. But before we get started, I just want to say thank you all so much. For these last few weeks have been insane for the channel. 2 weeks ago, I came on here and I said, we're at 80 subs. My goal is to get 100. My initial goal was to get 100 by the end of the football season. I think we can get 100 before the postseason starts. And what do you know? We're already at 105, and we still have the last month of the season left. This has been insane. Thank you guys so much. For those of you who follow us on Instagram, we post like the clips there. Our clips have been blowing up. They've been doing great. We've been getting a lot of love. So thank you, anyone who just like watches the shorts, and we're starting to get a big viewership for that. And even the people who just like watch segments, just check in every once in a while. I want to thank you guys all so much. Your support has been insane, and I've been loving this so far. I just don't know what else to say, really. Thank you all so much for anyone who supported or even given me some of your time, because I still can't understand that there's 100 of you who are willing to listen to me talk about some football. But I'm so grateful that there is. But let's go ahead and get started, because, again, we have so much to talk about this week. So we're going to start off with a little bit of unfortunate news. I know I said I was done talking about Kansas City on this podcast like last week because, they were effectively eliminated with that loss to the Texans. At the end of their game against the Chargers, which, by the way, did end up eliminating them for the postseason, we saw Mahomes go down and blow out his knee. He tore his ACL and his LCL that came out after. This injury, it just sucks. I'm going to be honest, I have been an avid Chiefs critic. I have not believed in them pretty much for any part of this season. But to see it kind of end that way is unfortunate. Yes, their season was already over before the injury, but to see Mahomes go down, it is the cherry on top of what has been a nightmare season for the Chiefs. And this iteration, like when we're talking about the Patriots, for example, right? Because there's a million Brady to Mahomes comps, which makes sense. They're the closest thing we've seen to each other. So with Tom, of course, we had the first half of the Patriots dynasty was from when he was brought in as a 6th-round pick to when he blew out his ACL, right? That in 2008. And we were getting basically the exact same thing here. So this has been the first half of the Chiefs dynasty, and I know some people aren't really necessarily willing to accept it. It is kind of a crazy thing to say, but this part of the Chiefs dynasty is over. The iteration that we know as like the Kansas City Chiefs so far is done. And I know that's a crazy thing to say. You could say it's an overreaction, but when you already saw this team struggles, like this team didn't struggle very much with injuries. Yeah, losing Josh Simmons for portions of the year sucked. Even like now, their offensive line has been completely banged up, and parts of their defense have been in and out. But for the most part, this Chiefs team, especially when you look at the relative NFL landscape, and we're going to be talking a lot about injuries on this show because this is a brutal, brutal week for them. For the most part, they were healthy. Like, this was about as solid as you can hope for when it comes to health for a team, and they were 6-8. They were going to be 6-8. Like, I didn't see a world where they beat the Chargers, even with Mahomes in that game. So, what does that leave you? It leaves you with a quarterback who's going to be rehabbing off his ACL. Not only that, like, yes, you can pray for him to be back week 1. That is the I wouldn't say it's a realistic expectation. I would say it is the most hopeful one, that he could come back for week 1. I'm not fully throwing it out the window, but when we see like ACL recoveries are just so different, man. Some guys can go out there and like 10 months later, you didn't even realize they torn their ACL. And then you have other guys like Brandon Aiyuk, who we're going to talk about at the end of the show. He's been out for the last like year and change, and we don't know when he's going to come back. Hell, David Bakhtiari suffered an ACL tear in 2020, and he effectively didn't come back. Like, there is such a varying grade to ACLs to where I don't think anyone can say, oh, he'll be back for week 1. So I think Kansas City is going to have to adapt, because if you look at their books, if you look at their contract situation, it's a mess for next year. Mahomes is taking up $80 million of the cap. That will be restructured and kicked down the can. But Chris Jones is taking up $45 million. Jawan Taylor is taking up $30 million. Trey Smith is taking up $25 million. Like, you just go down the list, and there are a lot of very, very, very highly paid players. And frankly, everyone except I didn't think Mahomes had a great year this year. But I'm not going to say he's on the decline. But if you look at the rest of these guys, they've been on the decline. Like, all these guys, they have insanely high paid contracts too. It does not make sense for this team to just run it back. So we're going to see the largest overhaul of Kansas City that we have seen since, the start of the Patrick Mahomes era. What does that mean specifically? I think that we have likely seen the last of Travis Kelce with Kansas City. I think that's for 2 reasons. One, if you just look at his play on the field, it has not been the same, of course. There has been a pretty steep drop-off with Travis Kelce the last few years, And, sometimes he pops up for the postseason. Like if you think back to last year against Houston, he had a signature game, like over 100 yards. He was dominant. It's like that's the Kelce that we had seen prior to. And if Kelce, of course, had like one or two good games throughout this season, but he was at his hands, dropped the ball on the play that effectively did end the Chiefs season in Houston last week. And he just frankly hasn't looked the same. His ability to get open has greatly diminished just because, yes, part of what made Travis Kelce so good was up here. He just knew how to get open, how to work in space, where to find holes in the zone. But frankly, he just has no speed to attack those, and his hands don't look great. So for him, it's like, why keep running at this? Probably next year for a good portion of it without your starting quarterback, or at the very least, a very rusty version of your star quarterback. Why run it back when you can probably be even more successful, make more money, hang out with your insane celebrity girlfriend? Like, by the way, when I say insane, I mean not insane as to her, like insane as far as her popularity. Do not want Swifties on me. But yeah, like, why do that? You have such a very obviously successful career in media. And frankly, when I see Travis Kelce, I don't necessarily see a player who loves the game. A lot of times I see his head hanging down. He's always frustrated. It's rare this year that I've seen Kelce be happy. That's like, maybe that's me reading into it too much, but I just don't see a reason for Kelce to continue. For one, I don't think the Chiefs should continue with Kelce. Rather than keep beating this dead horse in, like we saw the Ravens extend Mark Andrews, which I think is going to be a big mistake. Why keep trying at it with this older guy when, I mean, it's a pretty good year if you need a tight end, because not only there's some good prospects in the draft, but Isaiah Likely is a free agent, Kyle Pitts will be a free agent, and I would love to see both of these guys on expanded rules on different teams. And any one of these guys will probably give up a few $1,000,000 elsewhere to go play with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So I think that we're going to see the last of Kansas City, or the last of Travis Kelce. What else does that mean? An overall roster retool, like I said before, and the offensive line for this team has taken a step back. If you look at, what is the supposed prime of the Chiefs dynasty, right? It's 2022 to 2024. 22, they beat the Eagles. 23, they beat us. And then 24, they lose to the Eagles. But throughout the 3-year stretch run, the interior offensive line was Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. And barely the Eagles could rival that. Like, that is the 3 of the best players at their position. I'd argue Creed is the best center in the league. I would argue that Joe Thuney is top 3, top 5 guard in the league. And Trey Smith is just a freaking beast. I don't know where you'd quantify him as far as guards go, but he's just great. Losing Thuney has made that trio significantly worse, and it has affected the tackles as well. Like, Kansas City has not historically had great tackles. They, of course, won their first Super Bowl with like Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, but ever since then, it has been a mess of like Jawan Taylor, who is just not that good of a football player. It's been backup tackles against the Buccaneers in 2020, like if you remember that. So losing Thuney and exposing the tackles to a lot more pressure and, frankly, a lot more of a job for them has not worked out well. And they're going to need to address that. I think Josh Simmons he's going to be great in the long term, but you need to figure out the other side. And frankly, you need to rely on a backup plan because Simmons has been in and out of this lineup. And clearly, I liked Essapole, but they need better backups on that offensive line. Leading on to that, they need to figure out how to run the ball. I know that is not a signature of Andy Reid teams, but frankly, them not having a run game this year killed them. It was brutal. Like, having Mahomes be your leading rusher in a lot of games and losing every one of those games is not a sustained path to success. Not preying on Mahomes over and over again, which we're going to talk about when it comes to Buffalo and Josh Allen. It is not a good path to success. They really do need to retool that run game, and they need to get a better running back in there, frankly. On the defense side of the ball, this was a unit that, not only was their defensive line really good, but Spags would call up like perfectly timed blitzes that would seemingly come. Like, everyone knew Spags was calling up something, you just didn't know what. It would always surprise the other team. It was a signature Kansas City Chiefs thing. But this year we did not get much of that at all. And frankly, it starts up front. Chris Jones, the last few weeks has been great, but this year has very much not looked like the Chris Jones that we know. And I think even a bigger part of that is Karlaftis, who they extended last offseason, has seemingly mailed it in more or less. Like, he is not producing at all the way he has been before. Karlaftis is always good for like 9 to 10 sacks. It does not feel like that this year. Even if he does start boosting up the sack numbers at the end of the year, his pressure rate his pressures have gone down. The whole defensive line just frankly has taken a step back, and that has exposed the secondary, which consists of a lot of young, sometimes talented players. But those were definitely players that were boosted up by Spagnuolo and that pass rush. So They need to retool that secondary. Like, they're getting cooked back there sometimes, and especially in key situations. Think back to the Dallas game. They're going to need a lot of retooling there. So as far as specific players go, Jawan Taylor is a giant cap hit and a not that big of a dead cap. I think he's gone. I think Jalen Moore, who they gave a pretty fat contract to, is gone. Chris Jones, if someone is willing to give them a high second-round pick, I don't hate that. Even though it would suck for them to lose a player of Chris Jones' caliber, it is a big cap relief. So I think they could look at that. Butker, frankly, needs to go. He's like an $8 million kicker who isn't that good at his job anymore. Trent McDuffie, we'll see about him. If someone tosses them a good offer, I think they could accept it. And, I'm going through this list, and I'm so methodical. It's like, oh, you need to cut this guy, you need to cut this guy. And I understand if a Chiefs fan is like, whoa. These guys are all like key parts of our dynasty. Like even yes, they've had a down year this year. It's like Harrison Butker hit game-winning field goals in the AFC Championship game to get us to the Super Bowl. Jawan Taylor, even though he's had his struggles, has been a tackle that has won Super Bowls with us. Chris Jones is obviously Chris Jones. So going through and cutting these guys seems so simple, yet obviously it's not that simple at all. But to that, I'd say if you want to make the Mahomes and Brady comp, you also need to look at what the Patriots did. And the Patriots were freaking ruthless when it came to their veterans. Anytime they had sensed anybody taking a step back, they would look to move forward and probably get draft capital or just cut them and not extend them, let them walk. So if you want to be like the Patriots, you got to sometimes do shit like the Patriots. And back to that comp. Brady, of course, after he blew out the ACL, I was curious. It took them another 3 years to retool the roster and come back to the Super Bowl in 2011, which they lost to the Giants. And then it took them another 3 years to go beat the Seahawks in the Super Bowl and get back on top of the mountain. So this roster retool is not going to be a 1 year thing. I don't think we're going to see Kansas City back to the Super Bowl next year. It's just not that simple. I think maybe if they have a great offseason, they fully nail the draft, sure, they could be a very good team again. Like, again, a very scary contender. But I don't see them as, like, just coming back to the dynasty in 1 year. I think realistically it's going to take some time. There's a lot of holes on this roster that Mahomes and this, the base of this team has covered up. Not so great drafting the last few years. Even though, yes, they've sometimes added impact players, I think overall it has been a bit of a decrease. I think that they have not made the greatest moves in the offseason, especially in the last 2 years. So I think it's going to take some time to retool this roster and for us to see what I assume will be a second half of the Chiefs dynasty, which if not, that'd be great for all of us. I'd love to not have to deal with the Chiefs again, but something tells me they'll be back. But I think it'll be some time. Moving on. That was enough on the Mahomes injury front. That is I'm willing to say that is the last time we're going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs on this podcast until the offseason. I have a lot of fun stuff planned for the offseason, so we'll see about that. Moving on. We have the Packers and the Broncos. Before we start talking about the game, let's talk about what is going to be the most impactful injury of any team for this season, and that is Micah Parsons blowing out his ACL. This one is just brutal in the short term. Like, yeah, the Mahomes one, at least you can like have the thing of like, if he were to blow out his ACL at some point in his career, let it be in a lost season. But with Micah, this is a brutal, brutal injury. I no longer see a way for this Packers team to make a Super Bowl run, which, again, some people might think is harsh, but I just don't see it. Because there's no formula, of course, to like the postseason success. At some point, it's just a matter of like, you got to win 4 games against good teams, which is just hard to do. But if we were to quantify like any reason that a team is going to have success in the postseason, it's two simple things. Who's hot and who's getting healthy. Because no team is like, very rarely is your team going to be fully healthy heading into the postseason, unless you're like the 2021 Rams. But other than that, it's who's hot and who's getting healthy. So the Packers, who were very hot, like Jordan Love was playing absurdly good football. But this injury, I just don't see a way they can recover. Because Micah was covering up for a ton of the weaknesses we had seen in Green Bay. Remember, heading into this season, it was the Packers have a serious need for an edge rusher, and they need to address their secondary. So what do? You very much fix the edge rusher issue, and that starts helping out the back end of your secondary because Micah's going to get there in 2 to 3 seconds every time. He leads the entire league in pressures, I think, with 83. That is not going to be something they can just replace. There is no replacing Micah Parsons. And if you look at the rest of the pass rush, even this season, Rashawn Gary hasn't recorded a sack in 7 games. And he is somebody who was like the best part of this Packers D-line before. Lucas Van Ness, a first-round pick for them a couple years ago, has not developed in the way they wanted him to. He ends up being a rotation guy for them. And now you're going to have these guys step up into the roles that they were going to assume had the Micah Parsons trade not happened, which is going to be insanely difficult and frankly an impossible task because they cannot step up to the role of Micah. They can be a part of that. They can be like half of it, but they are definitely not going to be like, all right, well, you didn't even notice Micah was there. And touching on the secondary bit, outside of Xavier McKinney, who is top 5 safety in the league, not too sure. I think last year you can make an argument he was the best, but he's not been as good this year, but he's still a great safety. Outside of him, this is a cornerback room consisting of Keyshawn Nixon at your corner 1, which I think for most teams would just be their slot corner, Carrington Valentine, who's not great, and Nate Hobbs, who has been very much not great. So your secondary is pretty brutal. I'm going to be honest, especially if you look at the teams that they're going to be competing with and the receiving cores. And you now need that part of the defense to also step up and start to play better, which, I'm going to be honest, I think Keyshawn Nixon can step up. I really do like Keyshawn Nixon. I don't like him as a CB1, but I think he's a talented player. I know McKinney 100% can start covering up some other stuff. I know Evan Williams is amazing, and he actually went down with injury in this game. Hopefully they said it's not too bad, but it's going to be, there's too many parts of this defense that now have to step up. As much as I like their DC, I think it's going to be difficult for them. I just don't see it. And you have to remember, this is a team that already lost Tucker Kraft for the year with ACL injury. So you are losing the second and third most impactful players on your team. The most impactful player on your offense, of course, outside of Jordan Love, and your main weapon, your main security blanket, everything. Like Tucker Kraft was so good this year, and having him go down was already brutal. And now you're losing the flat out just best player on your team. It sucks. And as far as just like why it sucks for this year, outside of the obvious of like your best player towards ACL, this was a wide open NFL/NFC, AFC, whatever you want to call it, right? There was no obvious contender this year. Even if you want to say the Rams, which I think we'll find out more in 2 days against the Seahawks, I don't think we had an obvious Super Bowl contender. And this Packers team, again, in my opinion, I remember I got a lot of flack for this when I said it. This was a team that had a top 3 roster, right? If you look at just roster, I think this team was in the top 3, probably even the top 2, as far as just sheer talent goes. Now, and now that not only does that roster gap fall, I think for this team, it really was just as simple as, can Jordan Love get hot? And from there, I don't know who could have stopped him. It would have been an insanely difficult path to stopping Green Bay because we already know that defense was clicking. It was like a consistent top 10 unit outside of the Dallas game at the beginning of the year. And that offense, when Jordan Love clicks, is nearly unstoppable. It was a perfect path. Like Jordan Love was hot heading into this game. Granted, he did have 2 interceptions. This one, some of them not on him, or one of them not on him, but still. It really was as simple as, could Jordan Love just get hot? Because I think if so, I don't know who would have stopped him. So to try and do this next year, and one of the best, most talented defensive coordinators likely gone, I think Jeff Hadley will get a head coaching job. Frankly, he's younger, and he's just been a hell of a DC. He's been so good for them in the last 2 years. Oh, I'm sorry. Last year or last 2 years? I'm pretty sure it's the last 2 years. But to lose him when they're going to lose him, is going to be brutal. So not only that, and if you look at the NFC North, not only are the Bears going to get better, Caleb Williams is going to get better, and they're already a 10-14. So not only are you going to have to deal with that, you're going to have to deal with the Lions probably resurging, coming back, because all the foundational pieces are extended. They just need to do a little bit of retooling. The Vikings, I think, which you already see J.J. McCarthy getting better every single game, making steps, even having probably the best game of his career. I don't know if he had like a game in Michigan that would have topped the game he had against Dallas. So look through all of that and be like, that's who we're going to have to run up against. It's going to be brutal. This sucks. This was 100% their shot at it. And I'm not saying, that's not me saying the window is closed. Of course not. This is a very, very young, talented team for a reason. I'm just saying it is going to be significantly more difficult in the coming years than it was this year. That's enough on the Parsons injury. Glad we're done with injuries. Granted, that's like 20 minutes of the podcast. I know Devontae Adams suffered a big injury, the hamstring injury, but it looks like he'll be back for the postseason. And frankly, with the Rams, I don't want to talk about them until Thursday. I'm so excited about that Thursday game. I think I might end up doing an extra podcast just talking about the game after that on Friday. That's going to be so much fun. Sorry, going back to the game here. Bears are as far as just the game goes, the Broncos and the Packers. Jordan Love goes 24 for 40, right around 300 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. Josh Jacobs has a really, really good game. 12 carries for 73 yards. Not that many carries on the ground. Frankly, the Packers aired out a ton in this one. But he had an insane, he was great in the receiving game. He had this beautiful 30-yard catch on Dre Greenlaw where he just head topped him. That was awesome. And on the Broncos side of it, Bo Nix goes for 300 yards, by far the best game of his career, which we seem to keep saying about Bo Nix every year or every week. So maybe he's not just having these one-off games. Maybe he's just a really good quarterback. Who knows? Who could have said that a few weeks ago? Bo Nix, 4 touchdowns as well. RJ Harvey couldn't really get it going in this one. This whole Broncos run game really has taken a step back after J.K. Dobbins left. Courtland Sutton, 7 catches, 113 yards and a touchdown. He was awesome in this one. Frankly, these other guys are really starting to step up too. Troy Franklin goes 6 for 85 and a score. Lil Jordan Humphrey gets in the end zone. And frankly, this has been heading to the Packers side of it. This started off really well for them. They were up 16-7, I want to say. And then they got another long run in. So they had a pretty solid lead in this one. It just, part of it was that they could not push that lead very well because they struggled in the red zone in this one. Brutal struggles in the red zone. They'd been really good in that in the last few weeks. This week, not so much. A lot of settling for field goals. And if you've been listening to this podcast or just watching the Broncos throughout the whole season, I think you know you cannot leave the Broncos with any space or any room in that fourth quarter because they will come back. It will come back to haunt you. It does every time. But yeah, the offense was clicking. They were holding up Denver. Harvey only had 65 yards on the ground. Again, the Broncos' run game has really not been the same since Dobbins was gone. They were even getting pass rush on Bo Nix in this one. Everything was going to plan for that first half. It is really hard to get pressure on Bo with this Broncos offensive line. It is so good. Not only do they have one of the best left tackles in the league in Garrett Bowles, but we're talking about the Chiefs' interior offensive line. It's a very valuable thing. I don't know why teams don't value it more, or some teams, like Niners, they have So it is hard to get pass rush on the Broncos offensive line, and they were finding a way to do it. Like I mentioned before, Josh Jacobs was awesome in this one, creating a lot of huge splash plays, and then it goes to shit in one play. Patrick Surtain makes a freaking unbelievable play. I don't know if you've just watching the replay on broadcast. I don't think that does it justice. Go back on film if you have NFL Pro. Maybe I'll post a little short just so I can make an excuse to get that clip out there. That play by Patrick Surtain, he has outside leverage. Christian Watson goes in on a post. Not only is Christian Watson 6'4", he is insanely fast. He is built to be. He's the perfect deep threat, and he has a step on Surtain. It is toast. That should be a touchdown. 99% of other corners in the league give up that touchdown. But what does PS2 do? Somehow gets in a position. The Broncos defensive line does a pretty good effort on Love on that play. Gets to him a little bit, so it's not a perfect throw, but it's still a good enough throw. And somehow Surtain's able to get in position there, jump in front of the play, and get a pick. It was beautiful. And not only in that play, not only does Surtain get the pick, but Christian Watson goes down with a chest injury that actually takes him to the hospital. It was really scary. But the good news is that he seems to be all good. His dad put out a statement saying he's all good. I think the Packers press conferences said for the most part he's okay. So hopefully he comes back to action soon because this Packers team without Christian Watson is completely different. And then obviously Micah Parsons goes down to the injury. And then the pass rush, like we mentioned before, pass rush stops not getting home. The secondary gets torched. And yeah, that's kind of all she wrote on this one. I think the Packers, as far as this game goes, were really deflated. Frankly, just when obviously Watson goes down and then Parsons goes down, and you can just kind of tell they were just kind of out of it. And from there, the Broncos just carried all the momentum and took it through. This game, I don't think as much they were playing a really, really good opponent in Denver. There's no shame losing to Denver. But the main takeaway for this game, more than anything, as far as just anything that happened on the field, is that those injuries suck. Those injuries really suck. It looked even worse for them before because their right tackle had gotten injured, and that looked bad. Obviously, Christian Watson's injury looked bad at the time. Everything really did seem like it went to shit. At least they got some positive injury news on that front, outside of Micah, which, it's a pretty big outside of. I understand that. So, that sucks. Let's move on to the Denver side of it. I just have How About Bo written in that. I, briefly touched on it. I got one of the most popular shorts I made on this channel was me talking about Bo Nix, and my God, the amount of comments I got on that across all platforms was impressive. People are strongly opinionated about Bo Nix more than any other quarterback, which is crazy. I didn't know that. Maybe it's because the Broncos don't get that much national media recognition or whatever, but I didn't know people were so opinionated about Bo Nix. I was getting, and for the most part, I mean that in a negative way. People were shitting on him relentlessly in that in the comments. I'm not even a Broncos fan and nowhere close to it. But I found myself in the comments for like 30 minutes just trying to defend Bo Nix. And I had never thought I would. I didn't know people were so anti Bo Nix. I don't know where that came from. But frankly, the way he's playing right now, he's been shutting up a lot of people. And I think he's going to keep doing that. Best game of his freaking career. Let it come back. What else is new with Bo? Let it come back, throwing dimes left and right. Yeah, some of it, like a lot of his guys were just finding ways to get open. And he was fucking dropping it in the bucket. It was beautiful out of Bo. Leading comebacks and being awesome in the fourth quarter, that's nothing new. When I talked about that short I didn't even say like Bo Nix is a super amazing quarterback. Yeah, I said that Bo Nix has been insanely clutch. And then anyone who sees him as like a system quarterback or whatever and limited, frankly, has not been watching Bo Nix. Bo Nix has a hell of an arm. He's very mobile. And when he gets out of the pocket, frankly, he can do some dangerous shit. My thing with him has always been consistency. And can Bo Nix, for over the course of 4 quarters, be consistent, consistently lead a good offense? It can't just be, we put up 10 points in the first 3 quarters, we've been dicking around, it's time it's the fourth quarter, let's go lock it. That was not a sustainable path to success. These last few weeks, Bo Nix has been doing exactly that. Just locking in for, even in this game, yes, well, they did have a comeback. He was consistently good throughout. Not only are you still getting like the best fourth quarter clutch quarterbacks out of any quarterback in the league this year. Not only are you just getting that, you're now getting consistent production in just the run game. It is, frankly, I talked about how prior, if you start to get a consistent Bo Nix, this is an incredibly scary team. And now that we're starting to get that, yeah, you can go knock out the Packers, who you were home underdogs to. Go knock them out and win by 8 points. Easy enough. Like, they can beat anybody when Bo Nix is clicking like that. Another key, I talked about getting hot and getting healthy. And, this is like a very, I don't know if you want to say stereotypical adage. Very simple, very simply, sometimes the key to success in the postseason is just having a really good offensive line and defensive line. And the Broncos have that. I touched on their offensive line before. But as for the defensive line, you have Nick Bonino, you have Zach Allen. Like, those are major, major players on that defensive line. And they're going to create consistent disruptions, probably leaving out even more guys than that. I'm sorry, I'm not too familiar with like all of the people's names, but what I can see with my eyes is just that, yeah, that defensive line can get home. They're so good. The best pass protecting O-line in the AFC, of course. And in that second half, when Bo had clean pockets, you really start to see this offense just cook all the time. My main, I don't want to say only concern, but my main concern for Denver is that run game. Harvey has like kind of not been it, which I think is just like he's a young running back and not seeing things as clearly. And frankly, J.K. Dobbins is just a really, really good back. So before, when I talked about Denver, I talked about, this is prior to J.K. Dobbins getting injured, I said their path to winning games was just letting that defense cook and just running the ball. And I think that could have worked as a path, but now that Bo is starting to really click and that run game isn't that working that well, I don't think that's going to be the case. I'd love to see that run game pick up, but frankly, if they didn't run well against this team with Devontae Wyatt being out, so they didn't have the greatest run defense in Green Bay, I don't know when that will pick up. They need Harvey to just start taking major steps pretty soon, which I don't think is very feasible. I'm not sure when Dobbins will come back. I think they rumored for like he could come back for the Super Bowl, and maybe he can come back earlier. But if he doesn't come back, it's going to be a lot of pressure on Bo and these guys, because, or again, they really need Harvey to start taking a step here. As for the defensive side of the ball, I mean, when we're talking about Denver, come on, I've sung the praises of this unit every time they've come up on the show. I think the Broncos have come up 4 or 5 times through the course of this season, and I'll repeat again, there's so much talent on every level of that defense. I'm smiling ear to ear because it's just fun to watch. That defensive line we just mentioned, awesome. Their linebackers headlined by my favorite player in the NFL, or my former favorite player in the NFL, Dre Greenlaw, over there, just freaking killing people. I know he gave up a touchdown to Josh Jacobs. That was frankly just an absurd catch. It was good coverage. You got Alex Singleton, who's a freaking, if you heard about his story a few weeks ago, dealing with cancer, coming back the next week, insane. Great safety play in Hufanga and Jones. Of course, Hufanga was their offseason addition along with Greenlaw. And Jones has taken a major step. He's been awesome. The secondary, or their corner room, of course, you got Surtain. You got McMillan, who's been good for him. And Riley Moss, who is my only, out of 11 guys on that defense, he is my major, I don't know about that one, my main concern. He can get torched at times, But frankly, he came up with an interception in this last game, so maybe he keeps taking step forwards. He has a big issue with penalties as well. He needs to clean that shit up. So we'll see. This team is so scary. Said it before. God damn it, I was right. Nailed that shit on the head. Because now that we're starting to get consistent production out of Bo Nix, it's going to be really hard to stop this Broncos team, and that's why they're 12-2. Driver's seat for the 1 seed. They just have to win 2 out of their next 3, and they will be locked and loaded in that spot. So moving on. We're moving on to the Bills and the Patriots. Some basic stats for the game. Josh Allen goes 19-28, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Great game out of him. James Cook goes 22 carries, 110 yards. Josh Allen also adds 50 on the ground. For the Patriots, not a great game from Drake May. 14-23, 155 yards and a pick. This Patriots running backs were awesome in this one. Trevion Henderson goes 14 carries, 150 yards. 2 big-ass runs in this one as well. Ramondre goes 6 for 50. Drake May goes for 43. The Bills' run defense, we're going to talk about that here. It's not great. Not much production in the passing game, though. And for the Bills side, when we talk about the Bills and the offense, right, these last few weeks, I've complained about how much this Buffalo team is just Josh Allen and pray. But, and this is the reason why the Bills have looked so good the last few seasons, not the second half of the season, but, the last few seasons, is this Bills team with a run game is basically impossible to stop. It is brutal. The run game with Buffalo, this sounds like repetition to you if you're a loyal listener to the show. This may be kind of repetitive, but it's a point I have to address here. The run is what makes Buffalo so hard to stop. When they get a consistent run game with James Cook, it is seemingly effortless. It is so simple. And when they struggle to run, that's when you see the fuck it, Josh Allen save us approach. Because frankly, their OC is Joe Brady has been a little off and on this year, that's what I'll say at the very least. And when you go to the fuck it, we have Josh Allen approach, this sometimes leads to your offense looking insane, looking like a world beater. Because then you have games like Tampa, where Josh Allen, after throwing 2 picks, ends up with 6 straight touchdowns, and he ends up looking like God. And then you have the inverse, right? You have games like Miami and Houston, where we can't run the ball, Josh goes save us, and they completely shit the bed. Right, of course, against Miami, that was the big one. They got blown out by Miami. That one was rough. So the key for this offense to succeed in January is not to pray for 4 Josh Allen masterclasses, because yes, it can happen, right? We have Josh Allen in his postseason career outside of a snowy game in Buffalo against Cincinnati has been insanely good, like better than any other quarterback in the league if you just look at raw stats. But there is especially we know they're not going to have the 1 seed. The formula is not just to pray for 4 of them. It is not a sustainable way to win games in the postseason. It is asking too much out of one player. That could be any player. I don't think the path for the Chiefs ever winning was just 4 Mahomes masterclasses. It's just not how that works. So they need to be able to run the ball come January, because New England, which is an excellent football team, has been amazing all year. They were the 1 seed heading in. Even with them having a 21-point lead, they were still good enough to win against them. Why? Because they can run the ball, which then allows Josh Allen to just be a stone-cold killer, right? Because then you don't get the turnovers with Josh Allen, and instead you just get the amazing splash plays, and you get a consistent moving offense. Frankly, if the Bills can run the ball and you can't stop the Bills running with James Cook, I don't see a way you can win. Like, you just need your offense to play out of their goddamn mind. And even in this case, when your offense puts up 31 points, it's not enough, because it is so hard to stop. On the defensive side of the ball, this is where my praise ends. This is a unit that gets so easily beat. And I know they had a good second half, but this run defense is bottom 5 in the NFL. I don't know. Like, I'd have to really think about, like, can they or the Raiders stop the run better? Can they or, like, the Cardinals stop the run better? Genuinely, I would have to think about it. They are so bad against the run. Not only are they giving up explosive runs to Henderson, like that 760-yarder where he just like cut back and ran through their entire run defense. But like they're giving up consistently good runs too. Like letting Ramondre Stevenson get 8 or 9 a carry against you is brutal. It's flat out brutal, and this has been an issue for them all year. I don't see a way for them to fix it. Frankly, the way for them to fix it is for one of the good people of Buffalo to donate a tricep to Ed Oliver. I think he tore a tricep, and maybe that could fix it. But this is a brutally bad Bills run defense, and considering the fact that if you look at the postseason, right now, they are going to, I don't even, like, it's hard to say like a lock, but it's a pretty good shot that they're going to play a team from the AFC North, right? So if they're playing Pittsburgh, I don't think this issue is that much like Jalen Warren in that run game. But if they're playing Baltimore and they can start running nothing but read options and just chuck Derrick Henry down the middle, you're going to run into some serious problems. Or, like, let's say they go past that. Maybe they do play the Steelers. Maybe the Ravens do that thing where they just don't run the ball. Then you could get New England again with Travion Henderson popping off 60-yarders against you. Or you can run into Jacksonville with Etienne and Baishal Tutin when he comes back. I know he suffered an injury this week. But it's going to create a lot of issues for them. And it's going to be a lot of, can we run the ball on our side of the ball and keep it away from them, force them to pass the ball a bit more? Overall, this is a defense that needs to bend and not break. Because no way around it. This is not a unit that can carry them. It is not Denver. It is not Seattle. It is not going to be the reason they win playoff games. I don't think we're going to come away in January saying, wow, the Bills' defense is why they won that game. We're just not going to. They don't have the talent for it on that side of the ball, on paper. Like, if you really think about it, like, who are the Bills' great defensive players? Benford's great, but it seems like he's always in and out of the lineup, and he's a corner. Matt Milano's taking a step back, so what that means is that every once in a while, like this game, you get an insane 2-sack performance out of Matt Milano. In other games, he just doesn't do anything. Rob Bernard's great. He's also been in and out of the lineup. Like, there is just not that much talent on this side of the ball. Again, I hate to always make Niners analogies, but this is what I know. Think of the Niners defense this year. It is a unit that does not have that much talent on paper. There are a lot of holes, but what that means is, yes, you're going to give up 20 points. Yes, you're going to give up maybe 400 yards in the game, which it's brutal to overcome that. But if you hold the other team to 3, if you can get a turnover or 2, or maybe just sometimes you get a sack that turns what would have been a field goal into a punt. And that's, for example, Matt Milano got 2 sacks in this game, like I mentioned before. That is going to be their path on defense. Their path is not going to be we're holding the other team to under 20 points. It's just not going to happen. And it's good that they have Josh Allen and James Cook on the other side of the ball because, you know what? Maybe they can get away with that. So, big concerns as far as their run D goes. Like, I'm telling you, if they run into Baltimore round 1, it's going to be scary. Even if, like, I have so many issues with Baltimore. I have Lamar Jackson's just not playing that well right now. But they could run into a situation where, like against Cincinnati, like Lamar has to throw the ball 15 times, max. Just run the ball over and over again, and I don't see a way the Bills can stop them. So, they're still for sure the most dangerous team in the AFC. Even with all that being said, even with their defense, like I said, even if they go to a bend but don't break defense, like think a la Kansas City a few years ago, before their defense got really, really good with Spags. Like think the type of unit where it was like, they're going to get the one stop, right? Like Super Bowl 57. They get one stop on the Eagles. That's enough for them to end up winning the Super Bowl. Sometimes it's just a matter of being able to get that one stop. The Bills need to become that kind of unit where it's, sometimes we need to get Josh Allen the ball back just so we can have 2 minutes at it. Perfect. That's going to be our team. We need to hold this team to 3, not 7, so that we're only down 1 possession and Josh Allen gets the ball. That needs to be our unit. So, even with that being said, because of the fact that when the Bills run the ball, they are an unstoppable offense, probably the best offense in football outside of LA, when they can run. When they run, you are screwed. I just don't see a way a team can win the game when the Bills can consistently run the ball. So, even without Burrow and Mahomes, again, if they can't run the ball, it is going to be, in my opinion, a fairly quick January. Because you can't depend on just Josh Allen saving you 4 times in a row. So, even without Mahomes and Burrow, it is going to be a difficult run, especially because of the way that defense is playing. And on top of that, they have the most pressure to succeed out of any team in the postseason. As far as Josh Allen has been knocked off by Mahomes 5 times? I think it's 4. And you're not going to have to worry about him. There's no looking on the other side of the bracket and realizing, oh, fuck, we have to go play Patrick. So, this is your shot. Go win it. Even with all those problems, go win it. Moving on. We got the Patriots. And this is so stupid. I wrote, on Sunday, it was just Drake May. Not Drake May. Poetic, I know. He struggled in this one pretty mightily. Very much looked like a second-year quarterback, which isn't a bad thing, I want to be honest. It is very easy to forget with Drake May that he is in the second year of his career and that most second-year quarterbacks don't win the MVP or aren't the favorites to win them. So the rush was clearly affecting him. Joey Bosa got a few huge pressures on him, not just the tip to end the game, but there are a few plays where it looked like his guy had a lot of yak. All he has to do is get in his hands, but Joey Bosa was there. The rest of that D-line was making plays. He wasn't doing that beautiful, majestic, dare I say, gliding in the pocket, somehow having eyes in the back of his head, just juking out guys. He wasn't doing that. And he was inaccurate. which is weird. I have not said that about Drake May since week 1. Like that is not a thought I've even had in my head of his just being inaccurate, but he was in this game. Few just big misses, not really reading it correct, which I think you could tell he kind of felt the pressure at the end of that one with them blowing the lead. So his plays pretty much tapered off throughout the game. They built a really solid lead. They built a 21-point lead off of a great run game, timely conversions, and frankly, Buffalo incompetence. Like that first drive, that was not a catch. I don't know how you don't challenge it when the entire other team is like, go, 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 go. We need to go to the line. We need to go to the line, and you don't challenge it. It's an interesting call. It's definitely an interesting call because that would have taken 7 points off the board. But instead, they let them go down and get 7. They would have even gone better field position too. I'm pretty sure that was 4th down. Yeah, they're a young team. It's natural that they're going to have games like this. I think there are a lot of people that were freaking out that initially had like New England as like a Super Bowl favorite. I didn't really see them as like that, but I think the benefit of that, at least in my perspective, is that like it's natural. They're going to have mistakes. They're going to have games where, you blow a 21-point lead to a really, really good quarterback. Shit happens. It's a young team. It's inevitable. Frankly, that hiccup was going to happen at some point. So on the positive side, I love seeing Henderson get going. He is an X factor on that team. He is the best source for them of splash plays outside of the Drake May deep ball. Like he can just pop off a 70-yard run out of nowhere. Even frankly, like sometimes he just sees a small gap, somehow takes it because his acceleration is just that good. I love him. That defense, though, real questions to answer. They're a unit that is sound on paper, right? Like they're not necessarily amazing. They don't have like a ton of insane defensive players. Like if you look at the Broncos or something like that, where you can go to each level of the defense and say superstar, superstar, superstar. But for them, they're a unit that is sound, doesn't have that many holes, and they've been playing they've been playing higher than that level because they've had excellent coaching, and frankly, like some guys just stepped up. And we saw regression in that department. They were giving up pretty timely runs to, like, they ended the game, just letting James Cook get 5 yards on that first down is brutal. They were just giving up felt like times where they couldn't get that, like, key stop on 3rd down. They were always finding ways to let that Buffalo drive continue. And their red zone defense is atrocious. They are the worst red zone defense in the entire NFL. Frankly, I don't remember the last time I saw a team give up 75% in the red zone. That number does not make sense to me in my head. 75% is crazy. They need to fix that shit now. Easiest way for this team to be a first-round exit is if that red zone defense keeps up. Holy shit, they need to fix that. I did not know that. That was unbelievable. I guess just because they don't, frankly, allow that many teams into the red zone. I think they have the second lowest percentage of teams in the red zone. So they need to fix that shit now. That is brutally bad. Their offense went ice cold. Receivers got shut down. I'm willing to chuck it up to a bad second half and just move forward. I don't think there should be an insane worry over this team. Like, oh, this is clearly a sign that they're not ready, that they're going to be an early exit, yada yada. But I think there are undeniable concerns about the team's talent level. Frankly, this roster is still insanely young. This roster is playing way above what they should be on paper. If you look at this team, this is not a 11-3 football team. But they've been getting great play out of their quarterback. Their defense has stepped up, and whether that continues or not, we'll see. I think for now, because of how well they've been playing this whole year, I'm willing to say it's a bad game and we'll move forward. But I think there is a valid concern to the fact that if you just look at other rosters across the league, this team may not just be able to compare to them. But they will have the second best quarterback heading into the postseason. That gives them a little bit of credit. By the way, I'm talking about the AFC. I should preface that. AFC. Moving on, this is a little bit twofold. This is talking about the NFC South. Because if you have not been paying attention to the NFC South, which I don't blame you, people don't really pay attention to the NFC South or the AFC South. We saw the Bucs on Thursday fall apart against Atlanta, which was a diabolical choke job. That sounds so bad. Yeah, insane choke out of them against Atlanta. For both teams, heading into this week, had they won their game, and the other team, they lost, but it would have made it as simple as all they had to do was beat the other team one time next week, or in week 18. It was such an easy path to the postseason for both of these teams, had they not just choked against their inferior division rival. And both of them did. It's crazy. This Buccaneers one was so bad. It was so bad. It is the worst choke I've seen from any team all year. And I know that might be kind of presumptuous to say. Maybe I'm not thinking too hard. Maybe like the Bills and the Ravens at the beginning of the year was worse. But when you think about just how much this team had on the line heading into that game, they'd been the losers of 5 of their last 7. That now becomes 6 of the last 8, I want to say. They've lost so many games in a row. It is looking really, really bad in Tampa. And this was their chance to get right. They were up 2 possessions. They were up 14 points heading into the fourth quarter. They were by all accounts coasting. What happens? Baker throws a diabolically bad pick in terms of timing. I think it was also just like a really, really good play by the corner, in fairness to them. But still, brutal timing pick. The Falcons drive down. Kyle Pitts has 11 catches, 165 yards, and 3 touchdowns on him. A game so good, he is probably going to get about 6 to 7 more. He's going to get $6 more million per year at the very least when he goes and signs a contract with somebody else in the offseason. I almost did the 6-7 thing. Or not, I did. Shit. But still, they get drove down by them. Then they're not able to get a first down. But then the good news is, you know what? You have the Falcons on 3rd and 28. You get 1 stop, the game's done. What do? 15-yard check down, 20-yard ball. Are you kidding me? It is insane how bad this is. That one game alone should be a fireable offense. I've not been a guy who says you fire Todd Bowles. I've looked at the last few years, and it's just been like consistent success from Baker and this team, like finding ways to win, to get into the postseason, win your division. That's a goal. But giving up when you're a defensive mastermind, like that Todd Bowles objectively is. I guess mastermind's a bit of a strong word, but still, like Todd Bowles is a great defensive mind. To give up 3rd and 28, are you kidding? Like, I understand why Mike Evans was so frustrated after the game. That's brutal. It's brutal. And that game probably got Kirk Cousins another 1-year contract somewhere else too, so good for him. That was insane. And it's like, okay, Carolina, no way around it. The gods have gifted you a chance at this. All you have to do is beat the 3-10 New Orleans Saints, and you have it. All you have to do is beat them, and then you can beat Tampa either next week or you can beat them in Week 18. No way around it. It's your division. You could have the division clinched by next Sunday. And what do the Panthers do? But also choke. They are up 17-10 with 5 minutes left, and they have the ball. All they have to do is get 1 first down, and probably there's not much the Saints can do. Not only do they not get that first down, you know what, shit happens. They get a really good punt. So they back up the Saints all the way near their own 10-yard line. I think if the Saints had been a competent team, I don't even know if they necessarily would have tried for that, but they're 3-10. So they might as well go for it. And Tyler Shuck, who played a really good game in this one. I think Bryce Young also, I'd argue, played a great game in this one. Not necessarily great, but you know what I mean? Like, he didn't lose them the game. They drive down. They get a 20-yard slip screen and then a 10-yard check down to their 4th-string running back, who's a rookie. Then they get to midfield, and they call a design QB draw, and somebody hits Tyler Shuck while he's sliding, and that sets up a game-winning field goal for the Saints. That is brutal. No way around it. It is a team choking. And yes, I don't like the fact that they called that in that spot. That sucks. But no way around it, that was the penalty. That was a penalty. Would I have called it if I was a referee? No. Just because you know the situation, you shouldn't give a team the win because of a personal foul. Yeah, or because of a late hit. Frankly, a late hit that also was not to the head. But it was pretty much a penalty. Like, no way around it. Anyways, that leads to the Saints game-winning field goal. And now we are left in a spot where, despite the fact that both these teams had heinous chokes that should have basically cost them the division, we are here. The Bucs and the Panthers will now play each other twice for the division. Frankly, if Atlanta had won one more game, I think that they would have a good shot at it too. That's how bad these teams are playing. The Panthers had, by the way, separate side part of the Panthers, they'd been pretty, whenever Bryce Young doesn't throw an interception, they win games. No way around it. I think they were 6-1, 6-0, whatever, when Bryce Young hadn't thrown a pick. And not only you don't get the Bryce Young turnover, I'd argue he played a pretty solid game. He wasn't a world beater, but he was pretty good. He didn't cost you the game. And the Panthers do that thing again where I don't know why it always seems to happen. They just don't run the ball. Rico Dowdle only ends up with 16 carries. Jubal only ends up with 10. I'm not sure about the exact number. That sounds about right. And it's what are we doing? What are we doing? Why? This is a team that has had so much success on the ground. It has been their key to winning. And yes, I understand the run isn't working as well as you'd want it to. They're only getting 3 to 4 yards a carry. Just stick with it. So many times this team on the last drive was passing the ball. I think passed the ball 3 times. It's what are you doing? Just, oh my God, so frustrating. I think Tampa only has to win once. I think they have some tiebreaker over Carolina, and especially the fact that the Panthers have to play in Seattle, which is probably going to be a loss. Carolina's basically going to have to win against Tampa twice, which I'm not going to put it away from them, especially because I think Tampa's just been playing awful football. They've been one of the worst teams in the league in the last month and a half. Tampa really needs Baker to step up and start being the Baker from before, which, frankly, it's kind of insane to say this. That was 9 weeks ago that we saw that Baker Mayfield. So I just don't think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see these two teams kind of sloppily, like, duke it out. Like, I'm getting you. No, you're getting. It's going to be some crap. And then one of these teams is going to get smoked by Seattle or the Niners. We'll see about that. Moving on to the tidbits. Philip Rivers, this is, if you're confused why I'm saying tidbits, just like small little things that have popped up throughout the week or things that aren't involving necessarily full games that I want to talk about briefly here. I've been doing it for the last few weeks. They're really fun. I want to keep going with them. So Philip Rivers comes back to make his first start in 5 years. That was the A block of last week's pod because it was like, how the hell is Philip Rivers coming back off of retiring? That's crazy. But yeah, after 5 years, he makes his first start and his accuracy was still there. I'll give him credit. I was surprised by that. Like that, he had a really nice start to Aiyuk Quits to set up what could have been the game-winning field goal if Seattle didn't get the ball back and drive down. He frankly has no zip on the ball, which I think I should have expected in hindsight. And not only that, he really cannot push the ball downfield at all. Like I'd argue 20 to 25 seems to be the most he really pushes it down. Maybe he just didn't want to chuck it deep against the Seattle defense, which is fair. But yeah, no, I think the Seattle corner, I'm pretty sure it was Witherspoon who said it. He was like, yeah, we had to adjust. We just didn't expect the balls to be that floaty, right? We just didn't, it's something to adjust to. Yeah, they were accurate as hell, but they were weirdly floaty. I think he only ends with 120 yards on the day. But overall, considering like everything, comes back after 5 years, 1 week of practice, 45 years old, objectively fat, has like a beer belly, and plays not bad. Well enough for the Colts to try and win that game. But not going for it on that 4th and 3 in hindsight was brutal. Brutal. Especially, you get that 4th and 3, you win the game. And instead, they kick a 60-yard field goal, which very much could have not gone in, but it did. And the Seahawks get the ball back, and frankly, for a Seattle offense that was getting booed all game, that struggled mightily, the one thing they'd been getting all game was field goals. They had 5 field goals on the day. So they easily drive down and get in range for another one, and he drills that one, I think, from 56. And that's all she wrote for them. The Colts are going to have to probably win out to get the division, or to get a playoff spot, which I just don't see is very likely. Moving on. Aiyuk, this one. It's good that we're an hour in because I would have a lot more yelling to do. Brandon Aiyuk officially quits on the Niners. He was placed on the reserve/retired list / did not report, whatever it's called, which puts him out for the year, which sucks. It sucks really bad. Brandon Aiyuk was 2 years ago. Of course, he was the best receiver on this team. He had nearly 1,400 yards. He had this inarguable chemistry with Brock. That was amazing to watch. I remember seeing a fun stat. Brandon Aiyuk on out routes had a literal perfect 99.9 PFF grade. He and Brock were just on such perfect timing. He ran that route so well. He was one of the smoothest route runners I've seen in a Niners uniform. He was awesome. He had a big stink of it in 2023. He's like, I don't want to be here. I want to go be with my buddy Jaden in Washington, all this crap. They eventually do strike a deal. And before we get to that point, the Niners had agreed in principle to trade him to the Patriots. And the Patriots were going to give him a $32 million contract. He could have played Drake May. He says no. Okay, cool. The Niners agreed to trade him to the Browns. They get Amari Cooper back in a 2nd-round pick. Would have been a great trade for us. No way around it. He says no. I'm not playing in Cleveland. Okay. They agreed to trade him in Pittsburgh, which is where he wanted to go. I think it was either Pittsburgh or Washington for him. I think he really wanted to go to Pittsburgh at the time. So he wants to go to Pittsburgh. We agree to trade him. We're ready to trade him. John Lynch is like, okay, we're getting the finalized details. I think it was a second. Probably would have been similar to the DK trade. But then Shanahan randomly gets he finds out Aiyuk's willing to sign. He's like, stop. Runs up to the locker room or front office and stops the trade. And my God, I wish Shanahan was a little slower. I wish his legs did not run the way they did back in Texas when he was a receiver. Because not killing that trade was a brutal, brutal mistake. Aiyuk comes back, does not look very good at all. Frankly, was awful before he tears his ACL. He's been out God knows how long. I want to say it's been over a year and change. But he tore everything in that knee, to be fair. But he's not reported to the team in over a month. Frankly, no one on the team has like seen him. It's a mess. He's not rehabbing very well. I don't even think he could be cleared if he did come back. It's a mess. And I don't want to, when I'm talking about players, I don't like to talk about personality and stuff like that. I keep it simple. It's like, what do they do on the football field? I'm not going to air out my personal grievances with the players. I'll shout them out. I'll talk about how Alex Singleton has a really cool story. I'll talk about the time how I talked about with one of the coolest interactions of my life was talking in person to Dre Greenlaw about this really cool story he had in college where he saved this girl as a freshman in college from getting, starts with R, ends with D, and her being taken advantage of when she was really drunk. There is so many really cool stories. I love to shout them out on this podcast. But I try not to be negative when it comes to individual people, especially their personalities. But Brandon Aiyuk is going to make me challenge that today. Not only with this debacle, the Niners already voided his contract, his guaranteed money for next year, which was nearing $30 million guaranteed. They're going to wipe out probably more. They already said, there's already reports coming out, the Niners are going to be hunting for that money because Aiyuk is, let's just say, not been a team player through all this. So they're happy to go after him and hunt the money, which I think they'll be successful in because he has not reported the team in a month. It's going to be pretty easy to file those grievances. But at the beginning, when this whole debacle started to first come out and we heard about the voiding guarantees, everyone thought Aiyuk was going to challenge them. But it turns out you read later in the Routine article, and it's like he's not even fighting the voiding the contract. He just wants out that badly. And it's like, out of what? You're not even part of this team. Out of what exactly? What are you throwing away $30 million for? Just show up, rehab, cash your checks. No one's giving you 4 years, $120 million, nearly 100 of it guaranteed. No one. And he's happy to punt it away. And then he's going to punt away another $90 million in the next 3 years. I think the Niners only have like a $20 million dead cap on him because of all the void and guaranteed money. So it's actually not going to end up being that bad for the Niners when they cut him. It is an insane mistake. And yes, there are going to be some teams. In my opinion, I think it will be Washington. I don't think it'll be New England with the culture they have over there. Maybe he could replace Diggs, whatever. Some team's going to give him $10 million maybe. Maybe 5 to 10, somewhere around there. 1 year deal, prove it. And coming off of that brutal of an injury and the way he was playing before that injury, I don't know if he's going to do it. Like, I don't know if he'll step up to the plate and be that guy for some other team. Yes, the NFL is a business. I understand that. I understand that each of these players, if they don't want to be here, yeah, they can hold out. But finding a way to fuck yourself this badly is impressive. This is not Dennis Schroeder passing up an $80 million contract in the Lakers because he wants to go prove himself somewhere else. Or like prove that he's worth more money. This isn't about proving himself. This is about being a fucking idiot. No way around it. Just punting money. Burning it. It's like that one scene in The Dark Knight. Joker has like that stack of $60 million of the mafia's money. It's like, oh, are you going to rob it? What are you going to do? Just throw gasoline on it. It is one of the more baffling stories, frankly, I've seen. If Aiyuk has something going on mentally, something to deal with, some personal tragedy, I hope he figures that out. I hope he figures out what the hell is going on over there. Maybe he gets his mental right, something. Because frankly, I don't understand it. This is something that is going beyond any realm of logic. The Niners have had our history with trouble receivers. Post Jerry Rice, we had Terrell Owens. And he was a nutcase, but he was really, really good at football. We had Michael Crabtree, a notorious diva. Guy so good that he got Johnny Manziel drafted the 22nd pick and won the Heisman. He was that guy. Michael Crabtree was insane. And he ends up having his own issues off the field and all that. Hell, do you want to bring up Debo in that conversation? He was always an annoying little shit in the offseason when it comes to his drama. And sometimes he was a very inconsistent player. Look at the Super Bowl in 2023, where we needed him to go out there and beat man coverage because Aiyuk was getting bracketed all game and he just couldn't do it. And even then, it's like nothing is like this. This is absurd. Last thing I want to mention before we get to before we move on from this, Aiyuk had an Instagram post. Breaks his silence after a few months. Actually, it's been a while since we heard from Aiyuk. And when I see this, I'm like, what is he gonna say? Frankly, this is insane. The team came out and said he's not going to report to them in the last month. It's a good time to start speaking, start explaining things. What does he say? On an E-Way V-Truck, even though it's a BP, I still play the rear view mirror. My wrist, a PP Patek Philippi, same price, Richard Mille. Sorry if I sounded extremely white saying that, even though I'm not white. Yeah, that is, I think if we put in a little chat GBT thing, Something about driving a fast car, something about having a lot of jewelry, and still knowing that you're that guy is about the rough translation I got. I know Richard Mille's a watch, really, really like fancy watch, like $100,000. But yeah, I don't know anything else about that. So having a player just quit like that is unbelievable. You look at the rest of these guys. You look at Fred and Warner, broken ankles, foot's going the other way, sleeping in hyperbaric chambers now, just trying to find a way to come back on the field. And you had a chance to for this team who's 10-4, and you have a really good rapport with your quarterback and everything, and you threw it away. For what? I don't know. We'll find out. Moving on. Joe Burrow is extremely frustrated with this team. We had some press conferences coming out before the the Ravens game, about like how he's just unhappy, he sucks that he's losing, yada yada yada. And then he goes to the Ravens game and they get shut out 24. It was a brutal fucking game. I actually thought that'd be one of the better games of the week. I was wrong. That was insane domination on every front. You had the Ravens throwing laterals, getting pick sixes off that. Like, nah, that's yikes. That's unfortunate. And there's been raising a lot of questions about if Joe Burrow could be moved. What is he necessarily unhappy about? And I don't think he's necessarily like he's done with the Bengals organization. Frankly, as much as I hate the Bengals organization and I think their owner is a giant piece of dog trash, Mike Brown, when it comes to what they've done for Joe Burrow, like he wanted his receivers to get paid and stay. They got that. Like, even though was that a smart decision for the organization? No, it was a horrible one. It's one that very clearly is biting them in the ass because they have one of the worst defenses in the league. But yeah, they did that. They tried to help him on the offensive line. Not well. They tried. Like, they brought in Orlando Brown. Yeah, like, it's not. So he's not necessarily just mad about the Bengals. He's just mad about playing games that don't matter. Meaningless football. And, like, he's not blameless. It sucks that he's gotten injured so much and having to rehab from that is a brutal, brutal thing. But he's not blameless in that. Like, if they won that Bills game, they had a shot at it. Hell, I know the Ravens game didn't end up mattering for anything, but could have put up a better performance in that one. And I understand why he's frustrated, especially with all the injuries. That's fair. I don't think the Bengals are never going to move him. That's not going to happen. It would have to be like retire or trade me at the very least to get him moved. So we'll see with that one. But that's going to be a developing situation in the offseason. I don't get the vibe that he looks like just done with football and like, that it's like fully irreparable. I think he just needs a good season under his belt, stays healthy. We'll see if he gets that anytime soon, but I think this might be more of a story next year if we see the Bengals in the same position again. Last tidbit, it's been a long show, 65 minutes. For anyone who's been sticking through here, I'm give you a lot of credit. We have a likely benching in Miami. So we had the Dolphins and the Steelers playing last night, and Tua was dog shit. He was really fucking bad. Tua was not having a great game, and yeah, I think it's like pretty set in stone here. He's going to get benched. The Dolphins were, quote, open to exploring options when in the Mike McDaniel's presser today, which is basically cue for, yeah, we're going to bench him. So we'll see if it's Quinn Ewers. We'll see if it's Zach Wilson. I have a Texas fan friend. I guess for him, hopefully it's Quinn Ewers. But I think I would also like to see what Zach Wilson looks like after, I don't know if he's been on the bench for like the last 2 years. So it'd be fun to see what Zach could potentially look like after some time. But if not, I also see that I understand going to Quinn. I just think they need to do something because Tua is not post hip injury in college. He lost like the insane dynamic abilities, and his whole thing was just like, I'm going to be deadly accurate. And even though I might not have like necessarily the most zip on my ball, I'm going to throw a beautiful crossing route. Cool. He has that for a bit in Miami, and they get some success, but then he starts getting the concussions. And since post, some of the scariest concussions I've ever seen, he's just not been the same football player. I'm happy. People are giving a lot of criticism of the Dolphins organization for extending Tua. And yes, that is going to be hell to get out of. I think if we look at I'll pull up the Tua dead cap hits here. But as far as him personally, I'm so happy that he got paid. Because inevitably, he is not going to be, I don't think he's a starting quarterback anywhere in the league. But he's going to get paid $200 million. He's going to be able to retire with that. Hopefully he does it soon. I don't want him taking another hit. It scares the shit out of me when he does take hits. So whenever he's gone, I'm really glad he ends up getting this money. Next year, if they try to cut him, he will have a dead cap hit of $99 million, which will by far be the largest dead cap hit in NFL history. That will only be beat whenever the Browns cut Deshaun Watson in the next few years. Yeah, crazy, disastrous situation in Miami. We are probably looking at the end of the Tua era. I would argue it's going to be the end of the McDaniel era in the next few weeks. Whenever Black Monday comes around, by the way, Black Monday, if you don't know, The Monday after, or the next day after Week 18 wraps up on Sunday. Black Monday is the day where coaches and GMs left and right get fired from struggling teams. So we already know Chris Greer is gone. I imagine McDaniel will be gone. It was a solid effort from them to try and make this into a year. They went from 2-7 to 6-7. Nice. Yeah, I'll give them credit as far as that turnaround goes, but they're frankly so hamstrung by their quarterback. They need a breath of fresh air in that locker room. And I'm curious to see what Miami does now that they won those 4 games. I don't know about, and this draft class already doesn't look good for quarterbacks. Curious to see what they do at the quarterback position, but it'll be a fun one to look at. That is all. We're going for an hour and 10 minutes. It's crazy. Well, thank you guys all so much. It has been, like I mentioned at the top of this podcast, it has been so much fun to do this throughout the entire season. We've been getting so much more traction, so many more listeners. A lot of people listen to the shorts too. I think I'm getting better at those, not to toot my own horn, but I'm glad people are enjoying those. And yes, I will see you guys. I'll see if the Rams-Seahawks game lives up to the hype. I'll be back with you guys on Friday. If it ends up being a blowout or something happens, whatever, I'll be back next week to react to some stuff. More shorts will be coming soon, of course. More takeaways because those seem to be doing really well. And yeah, thank you guys all so much for listening, and I hope you all have a phenomenal rest of your day.